Struggling mom's card declined for diapers witnessed by CEO who steps up to change everything. Jenna stood in the local grocery store, her heart pounding as she pushed her cart filled with essentials. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting an unwelcome glow on the shelves she felt too weary to face. With each item she tossed into the cart milk, bread, a couple of cans of soup, and of course, diapers for Jake. She felt the weight of financial strain pressing down, more suffocating than ever. At the checkout, it all came crashing down. Jenna fumbled with her purse, fingers trembling as she pulled out her card. Everything around her faded as the cashier's voice broke through her thoughts, announcing the dreaded words. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but your card has been declined." A cold wave of embarrassment washed over her. She opened her mouth to explain, but the words stuck in her throat. Little Jake, wide-eyed and innocent, looked up at her, not understanding why they might leave empty-handed. Her mind raced. Panic flooded her thoughts, tangled up with the weight of motherhood. How could she let her son down like this? The judgmental stares from the line behind her felt like daggers. Just as Jenna's breath hitched and her cheeks burned, a voice broke through the noise. "How much do you need?" Max, the CEO of a local diaper company, stepped forward, a kind smile on his face. He was known in the community, a constant figure supporting families in need. Without hesitation, he slid his card across the counter, covering the cost of the diapers. Jenna felt her heart twist in humiliation and gratitude, two emotions colliding in a way that made her dizzy. Why had it come to this? Max's expression shifted from kindness to concern. He saw not just a struggling mom but a representation of the many families battling economic uncertainty. Jenna's resilience tugged at something deep within him. This moment would be more than just a simple act of charity, it was a wake-up call. As she made her way home, the weight of Max's generosity hung heavily in her heart. With each glance at Jake's playful smile, her resolve hardened. She wouldn't be that struggling mom, not anymore. Guided by determination, she began to envision a different future, a hope amid the dark clouds of societal judgment that hung over her. Meanwhile, Max took this moment to heart. He organized community events, using his company's resources to shed light on the plights of families like Jenna's. It wasn't just about selling diapers, it was about building connections, creating a support system. Jenna's unwavering spirit blossomed as she became a voice for the voiceless, inspiring others to educate themselves about the systemic barriers that weighed down families. They were not just statistics, they were people, with lives and dreams that deserved advocating. The shifting tides of change began to ripple through the community. Jenna and Max were now intertwined in a narrative of hope and mutual understanding. Yet, the real challenge loomed ahead, a confrontation with the harsh reality surrounding them. What would it take to change perceptions, alter the narrative? As a new chapter unfolded, the heartwarming connection turned into a profound journey of transformation. Jenna stood at the edge of discovering her own worth, while Max realized he had the power to make real changes. With so much at stake, both faced their greatest fears. Could an act of kindness indeed spark a movement? The answer hung heavily in the air between them. Jenna woke up the next morning to the familiar sound of Jake babbling in his crib. For a moment, she lay there, cocooned in the warmth of her bed, her mind racing back to the previous day. The kindness of a stranger transformed into something more, an opportunity she never knew she needed. She smiled as her heart swelled with a flicker of hope. Today would be different. After breakfast, Jenna decided she would reach out. Max's gesture had opened a door, and she felt compelled to walk through it. She dug out her phone and found the contact number for the community center. With a deep breath, she dialed. "Hello, City Roots Community Center, how can I help you?" The cheerful voice on the other end set a warm tone. "Hi, I'm Jenna. I'd like to know how I can get involved," she said, her voice steady but full of anticipation. "Fantastic. We're always looking for volunteers and advocates for our programs. We work primarily with families in need. After a few minutes of conversation, Jenna learned about an upcoming meeting where community members could brainstorm solutions to local issues. It was just what she was looking for. She would find her voice among others who understood. Meanwhile, Max sat in his office, papers scattered across his desk. He effortlessly scanned the emails about upcoming community events, but his thoughts were fixed on Jenna. He couldn't shake the feeling that their paths had crossed for a greater purpose. He decided to visit the community center too. The last thing he wanted was for his financial support to be a temporary fix. He longed to help build something lasting. Later that day, they both arrived at the center, Jenna's heart racing with excitement, and Max's pulse quickening with purpose. As they saw each other across the room, an unspoken understanding passed between them. They shared a small smile that was both acknowledging and full of promise. When Jenna was introduced, she felt a swell of empowerment. Speaking up in front of the group, she transformed from the struggling mom into a passionate advocate. "I want to share my story," she began, her voice a little shaky but gaining strength with each word. "We need to address the stigma surrounding families in need. We are more than just numbers, we are fighting to provide better lives for our kids." Her determination echoed through the room. After the meeting, Max approached her. "You were incredible, Jenna," he said, eyes shining with admiration. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Jenna nodded, the weight on her shoulders feeling lighter. "I hope so. I want to do something that matters, something that helps others like me." Their conversation flowed into the late hours, filled with shared dreams of change and the promise of support. But just as the excitement grew, reality loomed large. They needed a plan. A way to truly empower families like Jenna's. What would that look like? How could they rally resources? And most importantly, would it be enough to spark the movement they both dreamed of? The murmur of the room faded as their voices filled with the urgency of purpose. Striding into the unknown, both Jenna and Max grasped the gravity of their potential impact, their collective hope now entwined. Yet, the community would prove to be a double-edged sword. They understood the need for change, but would they embrace it? Would they allow a new narrative to unfold? A question simmered in their hearts, leaving a trail of uncertainty that loomed ahead. Jenna woke up the next morning to the smell of coffee wafting through the air. She could hear Jake gurgling in his crib, igniting that same warm flicker of hope that had been better than any dream she could remember. Their conversation from the night before echoed in her heart. Today, she would take the next step. As she prepared for the day, she found herself lost in thoughts of the meeting and of Max. He had seen her strength. She wasn't just a struggling mom anymore, she was an advocate. With a purpose. That thought alone gave her a boost of confidence. After washing up and dressing, she quickly packed some snacks for Jake and headed out. The community center seemed more vibrant than the day before. Bright murals adorned the walls, images of families, gardens, and laughter. The room was already half full as she walked in. Jenna felt butterflies in her stomach. She had a mission now, and it was time to forge ahead. But as the meeting began, a weight settled on her shoulders. Would people really listen? Would they understand? The first few speakers shared their ideas, and Jenna's heart raced in anticipation. They spoke of budgets, of programs, and of resources. But then, an elder gentleman stood up. Unfortunately, the center's usual funding was in jeopardy. "We need to think carefully about how to propose new solutions," he warned. "Community support can wane quickly. If we fail, we may lose everything we've built." Jenna's pulse pounded in her ears as she sensed the looming fear. She looked around the room. Determination flickered, but doubt lurked in the shadows. After a few more speakers, Jenna felt a tide rising within her, and she stood up, her voice barely a whisper at first. "We can't let fear stop us," she exclaimed, finding her footing. "What if we made our families our strength? Let us tell our stories. Let us engage those who misunderstand us. We have the power to create this change, not just through money, but through connection. The room fell silent. All eyes were on her. She swallowed hard, pushing through the nerves. I was once ashamed of needing help. But we are not broken, we are full of potential. The softer gazes started to become nods. Encouragement pierced through the tension. Lines of worry appeared on some faces but were slowly followed by glimmers of hope. Max caught her gaze from across the room, his expression a mixture of pride and admiration. He stepped forward, giving her a reassuring smile. "Jenna's right," he said, raising his voice to fill the space. "This is about more than support, it's about building a community that stands together. Let us harness the experiences we all have. Let our stories humanize the statistics." A burst of applause erupted. People introduced themselves after the meeting, their voices laced with shared experiences, newfound empathy, and determination. Jenna felt her heart swell with each connection made, and Jake babbling from his stroller felt like a chorus of hope amplifying in the background. However, just as she began to relax, a woman approached with a tense look on her face. "I overheard some troubling news," she said slowly, "about the funding situation. It's worse than we thought. If we don't act fast, we might lose these resources entirely." Jenna's heart fell. The future they envisioned began to dim, but then a spark ignited in her chest. "We have to think bigger," she declared. "We can host a community fundraiser, an event that shows the heart, the unity, our potential." The woman hesitated but nodded slowly, her expressiveness shifting to consideration. That might just work. Would they rally the community and kickstart the change they needed? Or would the shadows of doubt pull them back? Jenna's mind spun with possibilities and realizations of what lay ahead. Could they really turn dreams into tangible actions? The weight of uncertainty lingered, pressing on her, yet the hope remained vibrant. The challenge ahead seemed formidable, but they had a chance. Now came the question, would the community stand up with them? Would they draw upon each other's strengths, joining hands to face the hurricane of struggles? Time would tell, and the unknown loomed ever closer. Jenna spent the next few days in a whirl of planning and enthusiasm. She posted on social media, approached local businesses for donations, and rallied fellow parents at the community center. The fundraiser was set for next Saturday, and every detail felt monumental. Jake had become her little sidekick, and together they made a powerful team, reminding each other of the reasons for their fight. One evening, as she prepared dinner, Jenna caught sight of herself in the kitchen mirror. The undercurrent of stress was evident in her features, but so was something else, a fierce determination that was as new to her as it was exhilarating. "You can do this, Jenna," she whispered to herself, squeezing Jake's small hand. He giggled, oblivious to the weight of her words, and that laughter filled her with light. As the days blurred into one another, Jenna noticed the range of emotions swirling around her. Hope, fear, excitement, and doubt danced inside her. She blinked herself back to reality when a post appeared on her phone, a message from Max. "I spoke to some investors who might be interested in supporting the fundraiser. Can we meet to discuss?" Her heart raced. This was the kind of opportunity she had envisioned but couldn't fathom. She quickly replied, eager and nervous. They arranged to meet at the community center a few days later. That moment of connection felt pivotal. A few nights later, while she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Jenna thought of the ramifications of this meeting. If they could secure funding, they could amplify their message and reach people far beyond their own neighborhood. But what if it didn't work out? What if the personal connection she was trying to foster was lost in the business of numbers and statistics? She turned over, the questions buzzing like bees in her head. The day of the meeting, Jenna left the house with an extra bounce in her step. She clutched Jake tightly, feeling his tiny warmth anchor her as they approached the community center. Max was already there, pacing and speaking with a few sharp-dressed men Jenna didn't recognize. Her pulse quickened, and she took a deep breath before stepping into the room. "Jenna. Glad you could make it." Max waved her over, his smile genuine. The two investors turned to her, eyeing her with interest. "This is Jake," she smiled, introducing her son. The men softened at the sight of the toddler, their stern expressions melting into something more approachable. "Hi there, buddy," one of them said, leaning down to Jake's level. Jenna began to present their ideas, heart racing but determined. She shared the vision for the fundraiser, the personal stories that laid bare the stakes of their fight, her convictions spilling out like a dam breaking. She watched their expressions shift from mere curiosity to interest. It was working. They engaged with nods and questions, and Jenna's confidence swelled. Then, just as she felt she was gaining momentum, the room was interrupted by a sudden knock. A few community members entered, familiar faces who had also been rallying for change. But the tension in the air shifted as one of them, a mother Jenna admired, stepped forward, breathless and panicked. "I just got a call. There's going to be a massive budget cut. Like, a do-or-die situation. Lines are being drawn, and they're saying if we don't mobilize with community support immediately, we'll be facing a crisis." Her voice trembled. The atmosphere thickened. Jenna's heart sank, dread pooling in her stomach. "But we have this fundraiser set. We're going to show everyone that we can make a difference together." Max grabbed her arm, his gaze serious. "We need to do something bigger. A response that can't be ignored." "Bigger?" Jenna echoed, her mind racing through the implications. He nodded, determination lighting up his eyes. "What if we got everyone together, made it a festival? A showcase of our community's strength. We can't just ask for donations, we need to show what we're capable of." Thoughts whirled around her head, a mixture of hope and fear. Could they really turn this around? The stakes felt impossibly high. "Can we do it?" she asked, the enormity of the idea washing over her. The room buzzed with murmurs, and Jenna felt breathless with possibility and uncertainty. Would they truly escalate their plans and counter this potential disaster? Could a festival be the lifeline they all desperately needed? The weight of the unknown pressed down, yet Jenna's heart beat fiercely with a new spark. Time was ticking, and decisions loomed ahead. Was this the turning point they were searching for? Jenna's mind raced, pushing through the buzz of conversation around her. The festival idea took root, an ambitious vision, but how would they pull it off in just a week? The questions swirled, but she felt a spark. This could be the moment that could change everything. As the chatter continued, Jenna grabbed Max's arm, pulling him aside. "We need more volunteers. This can't just be on us," she urged, desperation creeping into her voice. "Absolutely," he replied, his eyes lit with determination. "We can reach out to the schools and local groups. I know a few people who'd rally for this. Let us harness the energy from tonight." Jenna felt a sigh of relief wash over her. They weren't in this alone. She turned back to the group and started speaking again, her voice steadier this time. "Look, everyone. We can make this happen. We can't just stand back and wait for help, we need to be proactive." Max raised his eyebrows, impressed, and Jenna pressed on, her conviction ringing through the room. "Let us make it a community event. Food trucks, games for the kids, and speakers highlighting our cause. It'll be a day for the whole neighborhood." The murmurs shifted to excited chatter, and one of the men, the more serious-looking investor, leaned in. "I like this idea. It's engaging, it's personal. But how do you plan to fund this?" The room plunged into silence, the spark of energy dimming. Jenna could feel her heart coldly dropping as her thoughts tumbled. Fund a festival? Where would the money come from? She took a deep breath and responded. "We can reach out to local businesses. They want to support us, to be seen as part of the community. It's a win-win. Tentative nods began to form. The seriousness of the situation didn't escape them. One of the community members voiced what they were all thinking. But what if the businesses don't want to help? That question hung heavy in the air, echoing Jenna's own fear. Doubts threatened to seep in again. Then we mobilize our community even more, Max jumped in, his voice steady and confident. Let's organize a petition and see how many signatures we gather. When businesses see the number of people behind our cause, they're more likely to contribute. Hope flickered back into the room. Jenna caught the eye of her fellow parents, and she smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. After a few more discussions, they set to work. Teams were organized, volunteers mobilized, and plans drafted for spreading the word. Excitement filled the air, mingled with a whirlwind of anxious energy. Jenna stood back, watching everyone come together, fueled by a shared sense of urgency. But as the first volunteers left to spread their message, a sinking feeling gripped her heart once again. The weight of the challenge at hand felt immense. Could they actually pull this off? Would enough people show up? A pang hit her when she thought of the very real fear in the community, the implications of the budget cuts on families like hers. What if they failed? Jenna! A voice called. It was the woman from the earlier panic, her expression fervent. We need to make sure this is not just another event. We have to hold our leaders accountable. They need to hear us loud and clear. Absolutely. Jenna confirmed, feeling a rush of adrenaline. It's not just about raising money, it's about raising our voices. Everyone needs to know what's at stake. Determined, she clutched her hands into fists, her resolve solidified. Yet another wave of uncertainty washed through her. Time was running short and the burden of responsibility felt heavier than ever. Just then, Jake tugged at her sleeve, his innocent gaze piercing through her turmoil. "Mommy, you're the best. Can I help?" A smile broke on Jenna's face despite the intensity of the moment. "Yes, buddy. You can help me spread the word." As her son beamed back at her, Jenna took a breath, realizing they couldn't let fear overshadow their hope. The festival was more than just an event now, it was the voice of a community, their fight for survival. But what if the looming budget cuts were just the beginning of a much bigger challenge? What awaited them in the days to come? Jenna stared at the crowd dispersing outside the community center. A wave of uncertainty washed over her as she watched her neighbors, their faces a mix of hope and trepidation. She had always been the one organizing bake sales and playdates, but a festival felt different. This was a fight for their community. "Let us get to work." Max's voice broke her trance. He was already on his phone, making calls. Jenna joined him, adrenaline surging again. "Okay, what's the first step?" she asked, glancing at the hastily scribbled notes on a nearby table. "Let us start with a poster campaign. Get the word out. People need to know this is happening," he said, his eyes brightening. "And we can set up a GoFundMe for expenses." The idea sent a chill through Jenna. Fundraising online felt daunting. What if it flopped? But seeing Max's confidence instilled a spark of courage within her. "Let's go for it," she said, her voice steady now. "Every little bit helps." As they finalized the poster design, laughter bubbled up from Jake, who was tossing a volleyball with some kids in the back. The sight of joy amid the tension filled Jenna's heart with warmth. But then the darkness returned. What if they fell short? What if their pleas for help fell on deaf ears? Clenching her jaw, she shook off the doubt. They had no choice but to push through. Days passed quickly. That first night of gathering volunteers turned into a whirlwind of activity. Flyers covered the town, names on petitions piled up, and excitement blossomed as neighbors rallied behind Jenna's vision. A local bakery even volunteered to donate goods for the event. But the storm clouds of doubt loomed larger. Jenna started to hear whispers the budget cuts were still a hot topic, but now there were rumors of school closures. Each morning brought a new article, each more alarming than the last. With every email and phone call, Jenna's determination grew, fueled by fear and hope intertwined. On the morning of a planned meeting with local businesses, stomach knotted tight with anxiety, she breathed deeply, reminding herself that they had worked too hard to back down now. The small cafe they chose was cozy, shouldering a few people in worn leather seats. As the community members unpacked their ideas, Jenna's apprehension slowly melted away. Conversations flowed, laughter lightened the air, and every person in the room believed in the cause. But when the cafe owner, Barbara, shared her concerns, it pierced through the optimism. "I'm not sure the businesses can commit right now." Everyone's tightening their belts with these proposed cuts looming before Jenna could respond. A new figure entered, accompanied by the bell's cheerful chime. It was Mr. Thompson, the CEO of a prominent local company. Jenna was taken aback. Was this truly happening? As if drawn by the energy in the room, Mr. Thompson smiled broadly. "I heard about tonight," he said, his presence immediately commanding attention. "This festival, it's vital. My company would like to sponsor it." Jaw-dropping, Jenna had to process his words. Could one decision tip the scales? Really? That would change everything. She exclaimed, her heart racing with hope. He nodded, enthusiasm in his voice. "We need to invest in our community. I can offer funding for vendors but before he could finish, Jenna felt a flicker of disbelief. Just as fast as hope surged, doubts crashed back. Would this momentum stagnate? Was this too good to be true? Jake brought her back to reality, tugging on her apron. "Mommy, are we gonna have the festival at the park?" "Yes, buddy. We're going to fight for it," she replied, a genuine smile breaking free. "And make it the best day ever." That glimmer of light sparkled around her, but Jenna couldn't shake the worry from her mind about how deep the budget cuts went. What other challenges lay ahead? The shadows loomed larger than before, and she couldn't help but wonder, would the festival be enough to unite them all against this growing threat? Jenna's heart raced as she processed Mr. Thompson's offer, a flicker of hope igniting within her. She felt as though she were standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to take a leap but unsure of the safe landing. Around her, conversation resumed, but her thoughts were drowned in emotions. What if this was just a mirage? "Let us not get ahead of ourselves," Max's voice nudged her back to the moment. "We need commitments. Let us finalize the details tonight." The buzz in the cafe picked up as Jenna and Max guided their friends into brainstorming action plans. Each idea filled the air like bright confetti, creating a whirlwind of anticipation. Yet, doubt shadowed her thoughts. Could they really pull this off? Could they raise enough funds? She watched Jake giggle with the other kids, a reminder of what they were truly fighting for. Days rolled into nights as preparations intensified. The commitment from Mr. Thompson set off a flurry of activity. Volunteers showed up at odd hours, ready to help. Jenna felt gratitude swarming her heart as she thanked them. Her community was buzzing with energy now, perhaps they really could unite and make a difference. But as she walked through the park one evening, a sorrowful sight caught her attention. A nearby family was rummaging through a dumpster for food. The man's eyes met hers for a brief moment, full of desperation. She turned away, swallowing hard. The reality of dwindling resources snatched away the warmth of her enthusiasm. What good was one festival if it didn't address the bigger problem? That night at home, Jenna sprawled on her couch, soaking in the comforting weight of Jake resting against her arm, but sadness pressed against her heart. "Mommy?" "Yes, buddy?" she whispered, brushing her fingers through his hair. "Will people come to the festival?" His innocent voice brought her to the present. "Of course they will. It's going to be great," she said, forcing a smile. Yet, doubt crept in as she spoke. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Mr. Thompson standing there, looking serious. "Can I come in?" he asked, scanning the modest living room. Sure." She stepped aside, her stomach swirling with unease. "We need to talk about the festival. I've been thinking it's not just about giving money." His voice was firm yet soft. "This is a chance to change things, to start conversations about what our community needs." Jenna nodded, hesitant but intrigued. Here was this man who seemed so far removed from her world, yet he understood the urgency of their situation. "What do you mean?" she asked, heart pounding. "We should create an initiative at the festival," he suggested. "Let us not just celebrate. Let us see how we can address these budget cuts and offer support for families in need. Gather resources, connect people with services, maybe even some food drives." Her heart lifted briefly then sank again. That's ambitious. What if it fails? Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it, he replied with a reassuring smile. When it comes to helping the community, every effort counts. Plus, it gives our festival a purpose beyond just a day of fun. As he spoke, Jenna felt a surge of inspiration. Perhaps this could be more than just a festival, it could be the start of building a stronger community. The next day, she and Max met again with the volunteers. When Jenna proposed the new idea, the energy in the room shifted. Conversations turned serious and focused, visions of creating something impactful buzzed in the air like electricity. But just beneath the optimism, fear simmered. Would the community embrace their expanded vision? Would they be able to gather the necessary resources and support? Her thoughts raced as she glanced at Jake doodling quietly in a corner, oblivious to the weight of adult worries. What if this endeavor was too overwhelming? Then she looked up to see the faces of her friends, determination etched into their features. With hearts united, she knew they were ready to fight for change. But was this bold move enough to truly confront the looming budget crisis? As the festival day approached, Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge again, ready to leap into uncertain waters. Would the community rise together, or would they sink under the weight of the challenges ahead? The sun was barely up when Jenna stepped into the community center, the air thick with nervous energy. Beneath the dim light, chairs were scattered haphazardly, remnants of last night's meeting clinging stubbornly to their cushions. Jenna took a deep breath, mentally preparing for the day ahead. Today was the day they would unveil their plans to the public. The festival wasn't just a celebration anymore, it was the rallying point for change. Max was already there, pacing back and forth, his phone glued to his ear. "No, we can't move the stage. It's already set up." The sound system. Jenna caught his eye and offered a supportive smile. He ended the call and ran a hand through his hair, his face flushed with anxiety. "I'm feeling so much pressure. What if no one shows up? What if everything falls apart?" "Everyone is counting on us," Jenna replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "But I believe we can do this. They deserve to know that they're not alone." Jake scampered in, his small figure bursting with excitement. "Mommy, can I help? I want to give out the balloons." Her heart warmed at his eagerness. "Absolutely, sweetheart. You can be our official balloon master." As Jenna and Jake started organizing supplies, she glanced towards the door, watching as families began to trickle in. Men and women, some clutching their children, others burdened with bags of goods, formed a line almost instinctively. Her heart swelled, this community had come together in a way she had never imagined. But lurking beneath the surface was a creeping doubt. Could they really address the issues at hand? Each smile she received felt like a fragile thread in an intricate tapestry of hope. Would one day be enough to make a difference? Then, the moment arrived. A microphone was placed strategically at the front of the hall. Jenna stood behind it, her palms slick with sweat. She cleared her throat, her voice filling the vast, expectant room. "Thank you all for being here today. Together, we can ignite change for our community." As she spoke, she felt a thick silence wrap around her, holding the weight of everyone's hope and concern. She shared stories of hardship and resilience, of families facing difficulties but finding strength in each other. With each word, she could see people nodding, connecting with the message. But just as Jenna began to mention the plans for future initiatives, the door swung open. In strode Mr. Thompson, looking grave and purposeful. A hush fell over the crowd, a ripple of recognition spreading through the room. "Excuse me, everyone," he interrupted, stepping forward. "I have something to share." A sense of trepidation filled the air. Jenna's heart raced. Was this good news or bad? "I've seen firsthand how passionate you all are," he continued, addressing the crowd. "And I believe that together, we can tackle the bigger issues facing our community. I'm launching a fund right now, to support families struggling with basic needs: housing, food, education, and health care." Gasps of disbelief filled the room. Jenna felt warmth rush over her, a wave of hope washing away lingering uncertainty. But he paused, letting the anticipation grow. "I can't do this alone. I need your voices. We will hold weekly community meetings, work together to address these budget cuts, and reconnect those who feel isolated. Are you with me?" The room erupted into applause and cheers, the atmosphere electric with newfound energy. Tears prickled at Jenna's eyes as she caught Max's expression, a mixture of shock and joy. They weren't just fighting for a festival anymore. They were beginning to forge a new path. As the celebration continued, Jenna found herself drawn to the corner where Jake was handing out balloons. Laughter enveloped them, yet a new thought nagged at her. Would this energy sustain itself? Would they be able to keep the momentum going or falter when the excitement faded? The real work was just beginning. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the gathered families, Jenna made a promise to herself. No matter what happened, she would keep pushing for change. But what she didn't expect was the phone call she was about to receive, a call that would shake the very foundation of their plans. The evening air was thick with celebration, but as the laughter of children echoed through the community center, Jenna's heart raced. She tried to focus on Jake, who was proudly tying balloon strings and darting from one smiling face to another, yet her mind was somewhere else. The promise of change felt electrifying, but a storm of uncertainty brewed in the corner of her thoughts. Suddenly, her phone buzzed insistently in her pocket, pulling her from her reverie. She looked at the caller ID and felt her stomach drop. It was Laura, a fellow single mom who had been a vocal part of their group. Jenna could sense the urgency even before she picked up. "Laura? What's wrong?" "Jenna." Laura's voice burst through. It wavered, thick with emotion. "You won't believe what just happened. I'm at the store, and my card got declined. For diapers. In front of everyone." The laughter around Jenna faded as she processed Laura's words. Her mind raced. Diapers, something so essential, meant to protect children, had become another source of humiliation. "I'm so sorry, Laura. Are you okay?" "No, I'm not okay." Laura's voice cracked. "I can't afford to let my kids see me struggling like this. I thought I could manage until payday, but this feels so hopeless." Jenna felt her heart tighten. She knew how hard Laura worked, juggling 2 jobs to make ends meet. "I'll come to you right now. Just stay there, okay? Please. I don't want to face anyone." As she ended the call, a heavy weight nestled in her chest. She grabbed Jake, who was still blissfully handing out balloons. "Honey, we need to go. Laura needs help." "Okay, Mommy." He chirped, oblivious to the gravity of the situation. In the car, Jenna steered through familiar streets, but each block felt longer than the last. She glanced at Jake in the rearview mirror, his innocent smile striking a contrast to the anxious thoughts swirling in her head. What could she do for Laura? How could she possibly reassure her that this community was meant to uplift, not isolate? When they arrived at the store, Jenna's heart pounded. She spotted Laura sitting on a bench outside, head in her hands. The fluorescent lights from inside pulsed like a heartbeat, flickering uncomfortably in the backdrop of the dimming twilight. As Jenna approached, she noticed a tall figure standing nearby Mr. Thompson. He looked concerned, deep in conversation with a store manager, but turned at the sound of Jenna's footsteps. "Everything okay?" he asked, noticing Laura's grief. "No, Laura's card got declined and she's in a tough spot," Jenna explained, her voice shaking slightly. Mr. Thompson's expression shifted from concern to determination. He walked over to Laura, kneeling beside her. "Hi, I'm Mr. Thompson. I'm sorry to hear you're having a hard time. How much do you need for the diapers?" Laura looked up, shocked and speechless. Jenna held her breath, a glimmer of hope breaking through the heaviness of the moment. I don't know. I can't afford them this week, but I can pay you back." Laura stammered. "That's not what I'm asking," Mr. Thompson replied gently. "This community fund we're starting is meant for moments like this. We're here to support each other, not to let each other sink." Jenna felt a swell of gratitude as Laura's relief turned to soft, glistening tears. The gravity of the situation transformed into a sense of unity, a reminder that vulnerability could be met with strength. "Thank you," Laura finally whispered, her voice breaking. As Laura and Mr. Thompson connected, Jenna watched, filled with hope and resolve. Yet, in the back of her mind, another fiercer emotion stirred fear. Would they be able to create a lasting change, or would moments like this be overshadowed by old patterns of neglect? Just then, her phone buzzed again. This time, the noise felt ominous. What more could disrupt this fragile sense of hope? "Just a second," she said, pulling it out. The words on the screen sent a chill down her spine. This felt big. "Mr. Thompson, I think we're in for a bumpy ride," she whispered, unsure of what the next steps would demand of them. But they would face it together, right? And there it was, the unexpected twist that Jenna hadn't foreseen. How would they navigate this new challenge amidst their hope for change? As Jenna squinted at the phone's screen, she read the message again. The local news outlet was reporting on the looming budget cuts, detailing the ramifications for community services and programs. Alarm bells rang in her mind. This was no longer just about a festival or raising funds, they were facing a crisis that threatened everything. A pit formed in her stomach as the reality set in. They were in a fight for survival. "Mr. Thompson, we need to do more than help individuals," Jenna urged, anxiety coursing through her. "This uproar could drown every initiative we're trying to establish. It could bury our hope." Mr. Thompson straightened, concern etched on his face. "You are right, Jenna. If we want lasting change, we need to act swiftly and decisively." The weight of his words settled heavily, but Jenna's heart raced with determination. This was no time for hesitation. What if we gather everyone who has shown support and develop a plan to confront the local government? We need them to see the impact on families firsthand. "I like that idea," he responded. "Let us organize a public forum. Show them that these aren't just numbers in a budget, these are real families. They won't be able to ignore the faces of those in need." Jenna nodded fiercely, inspiration lighting a fire within her. "We need to create a movement. We're done sitting quietly in the shadows. We're bringing our voices front and center." With a new sense of purpose, Jenna, Mr. Thompson, and Laura turned back to the community center. In the midst of the festival preparations, they gathered everyone together, a diverse group brimming with individuals ready to instigate change. As she shared her vision, Jenna was surprised to see the energy that filled the room. People were nodding in agreement, babies were cooing, and laughter erupted as neighbors connected. Here was the heart of the community pulsing vibrantly with hope, but also with concern. "We cannot let bureaucrats decide our community's fate without hearing our stories. she declared, her voice steady and commanding. "We need a movement that embraces our shared experiences. Who's with me?" Cheers erupted, spirits soaring, as hands shot up across the room, a collective agreement echoing through. This was the spark that could ignite real change. Together, they would march forward. In the days that followed, the momentum gained speed. Flyers circulated for the public forum, caffeinated discussions flourished in the community center, and social media buzzed with excitement. Jenna felt revived, determined to utilize everything they had built. However, uncertainty loomed in the backdrop. Would the local government take their concerns seriously? Would they feel the pressure from their united front? On the day of the forum, Jenna arrived early, setting up decorations with Jake at her side. The room filled with a palpable mix of excitement and apprehension. As friends arrived, Jenna exchanged knowing glances filled with determination. This day would be a turning point. When the time finally came, Jenna took center stage, her heart pounding in her chest. "Welcome everyone. We're here to share our stories and demand change." The crowd cheered, an almost electric energy coursing through the air. Jenna introduced each speaker, each one sharing their personal journey, stories of fear, hope, resilience, and love. As the tales unfolded, the tension in the room morphed from anxiety to solidarity. People wiped away tears, nodded with deep understanding, and joined hands in solidarity. It was beautiful, and yet, a sobering reminder of their purpose. And then, it happened. Each meeting, every whisper of rejection from leaders, led up to this moment. The local councilman arrived, walked through the doorway, and was met with a chorus of voices rising in unison. Jenna stepped forward, her voice calm yet fierce. "I know you have tough decisions to make, but we are here to say we matter. Our struggles matter," she proclaimed. Shocked yet captivated, the councilman listened, his expression softening as he took in the crowd's passion. The discussions turned lively, the barriers of deaf ears crumbling as their persistence shone through the cracks. As the evening progressed, Jenna walked among the crowd. It was more than just hope, it was change unfolding right under her fingertips. Families mingled, neighbors embraced, and children played with abandon. The festival they almost abandoned had transformed into the heartbeat of a movement. But in that moment of victory, Jenna couldn't forget the challenges still ahead. She would keep pushing. They had merely ignited the flame. The journey would be long and arduous, filled with hurdles and uncertainties. But they were willing to fight. As she stood at the forefront, surrounded by friends and neighbors, a newfound conviction surged through her veins. The fire that had started in her heart now blazed through her community. They weren't just changing narratives, they were rewriting their story together. And there it was, the transformation. Jenna, once a struggling mom, now a fierce advocate, was not just fighting for herself and her son, she was fighting for every family that felt unheard. This was her journey, and love would guide it forward. As the final whispers of the night fell gently over the crowd, Jenna turned to the light pouring through the windows, hopeful for the future but bracing against the battles yet to come. But there was no doubt about one thing: together, they were unstoppable. Now, if you felt inspired by this story of resilience and transformation, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your engagement helps us bring more stories that matter to life. Let us build this community together.